All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Coleman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. I have my latest guest here in front of me, Rachael Davis, all right, from Repower, a transformational coach. Say hello to the listeners.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. And Coleman, you're a complete inspiration. You make everyone light up and smile. I'm throwing it back at you. So thank you for having me.
She's throwing it straight back at me early as well. So after totally throwing me off my cue note straight away. So we're very similar in itself. We were having chats before we pressed the record button in itself. And I suppose maybe you mightn't even mention this, but I'm going to say it before. Maybe even you do, right? You're someone who is helping people massively and has trained two, I'm going to say, leading individuals in their own field. We have Catherine Thomas and the likes of Katie Taylor, right? The idea is I want you to tell us, right, how you ended up being in the position where you are right now, and we can go maybe further expand on that.
The gift of the gab is one thing, right? That's definitely, that can always help. But, Coleman, I've been in the health and well-being field for 25 years. I began running with my dog when I was 12 after he had a hip operation. So the dog had the hip operation. And through my teens, that was my kind of, my go-to was running. But I also loved basketball and exercise and things like that. And I had a very soulful upbringing with my parents. My mum had the crystals around and she studied shiatsu and, so there was always natural healing around and things like that. So yeah, I just was very naturally interested in it. I'm also an empath as well. So I'm kind of a bit sensitive to the world and I can feel if someone's going through a hard time. I did want to be a nurse. My eldest sister is a nurse. She's fabulous. And then I was kind of sporty. So I went to Manchester and studied my degree in sports rehabilitation therapy. And I worked with some Premier League football clubs. I got to do lots of bits and pieces. It was fabulous. And then I went to Australia, worked with the Aussie rules teams and all there. This was in 2003. And I came across...
What a CV, this woman. My God. Jesus, if I got that in over the table, I'd say you're hired this minute.
Not bad for an owl one now, huh?
Stop, you're as young as that, will you? Give it a break.
Well, this was in 2003, but I worked in so many well-being places. Well, two in particular. I kind of dabbled a bit to seek for experience first, and two places I settled in. And one was an amazing Pilates studio with reformers. Now, reformers were not even in Ireland at the time in 2003, as far as I'm aware. And it just opened my eyes to how people actually look after their well-being. People got up in the morning, they did their run, they actually filled up their own cup before everyone else drank from it. Okay. So back in Ireland, we didn't really do that. It was, love thy neighbor, but not love thyself. It was that kind of a thing back in the day. So when I came back from Australia, I was like, yes, let's get this whole well-being thing sorted and, change everyone's lives. And it kind of fell on deaf ears in a way. So I stuck to Pilates and rehabilitation therapy. I was a hands-on therapist for 25 years. And I gave that up last year. So I don't do any hands-on work on a one-to-one basis, but I do in group classes. So, like from a restorative yoga point of view with some hands-on, or if I'm doing like exercise therapy sessions, I'm doing some hands-on and things like that there. So that's kind of it. I've probably gone off on a bit of a tangent, but that's the bit of the history there.
No, very good. And the idea is, I'm a firm believer in, I suppose, your history creates who you become in the future. You hang around with positive people. You were healthy from a younger age. You had a great upbringing. That's all, I suppose, helpful. And I suppose that's the idea, that you are the average of the people that you hang around with and what information you consume.
Yes, absolutely. Now I am one of five. So, we were bouncing around as kids and it was great. And I think that actually really did, sorry, someone trying to come call me there. I really felt like, the whole social thing was very natural to me. But, when the pandemic actually hit, as everyone talks about this, I realized that I actually loved my own company and I really wanted to go a little bit introverted, in a sense that I didn't have to be the people pleaser anymore. I didn't have to be the socialite and be everywhere. And it felt really normal and natural to do that before. But then I went through a whole growth and transformation myself through that period. My marriage broke down in 2019 and the business closed down and all sorts of stuff. And I came up with this theory called free power, because I was like, I'm not just going to sit around and wait for something to happen. And it was really deep, where, you know, the 3 steps are: you rethink your body and mind, you restore your movement and function, and then recharge your vitality and flow. So the rethinking is journaling, maybe doing some yoga practice where you've got to think about more mindfulness. You know, the restore then is the movement part, but also function. So I've been working in pain management for as long as I've come out of college. So like well over 20 years in pain management. That's a huge reason why a lot of people will come to me, but also a lot of the reason why I want to feel well. I mean, when you can't bend down and put your socks on because your back is gone, like what? You've been there, right? We've all been there.
Too funny. After a training session, it was this kind of a funny joke. I had my socks on, I had to fire them off, but it was off recording. But inside joke, there's the scoop.
We can replicate it if you like.
Oh, no, I'm not putting them socks back on. Brilliant.
I'm far away because you're just out of the gym.
Too funny. And the toughest transition I did this year, holy God, I don't recommend rowing to anybody.
You're brilliant. You're so inspiring, I have to say. You know, you really are, and it's just so lovely to watch you. You know, taking the whole well-being thing and bringing it out to the world. It's really inspiring. So yeah,
Yeah,
super
we
well.
can even thank you, but we can even chat about that, right? And it was something that has been brought up, I suppose, even recently, even in our conversation before we pressed record. It's making sure that you mind yourself. And a lot of people watching me on social media now are going, oh, and anyone else that's putting a lot of effort and a lot of time in, everyone who's starting a business, and I would always even put myself in that position of saying that I'm actually only starting now. Do you know what I mean? I started when 15 years ago when I started commercial growing, and that was hard. And then I started personal training, and that was really difficult. And then I did nutrition, and then in my spare time, and then do you know what I mean, put it all together. And I was going to tell you that I was working harder back then than I am right now. And it's not that I have loads of spare time. And in fact, I would even suggest that a lot of people, and you might agree with this or might disagree, they actually waste their time. I don't waste my time. I use it like I don't have any more.
Yes, that's exactly it. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day. 24.
Sleep 8.
Exactly. So we've 16 hours to play around with. That's for work and for play, you know? So there's lots of time. Anyone who says they don't have time need to look at their lifestyle, you know, really. So it sounds like you went through a good transformation yourself over the last few years, you know, of figuring out. And if we ever stop transforming, I mean, we're always growing and we're always doing the work. So we've got to work on our personal development every single day. Every single day, we've got to do something for our personal development. And that's for our mental health, our emotional well-being, our spiritual well-being, if that's important to us. Our physical health is only like the vessel of us. The physical health is the vessel. The energy is everything else: the emotional, the mental, mindful, and spiritual. So if we look after those other things, the emotional, spiritual, mental, the physical vessel feels really well. If we don't look after those other things, the physical vessel will get a message. And guess what that message is? Dun, dun, dun.
They asked me the question, or was that like suspense pause? What was that? I wasn't sure the answer. I wasn't sure.
So a couple of my friends call me the interrogator because I've always asked questions all my life. And now as a coach, it's actually a skill that I've always had, because I'm more of a listener, hard to believe when you're doing a podcast, but I'm more of a question kind of person, inquisitive. And then I love the answers. That's why everyone's, you know, and I'm a bit uncomfortable talking about myself, but you've got to do that nowadays as well, especially when you're running a business, you know. So the answer to the question is, the vessel will tell us, the physical being will tell us in a really clever way that there's something wrong with the whole system. And that message is called pain. Yeah. So the physical being will get pain if there's something out of sync.
Pain as in burnout, pain as in an ache, pain.
All of the above. Pain is a really clever message. Like if I go to touch that wall and it's hot, I pull away from it. So pain is a really clever message. We have to get better at listening to pain. What's the body telling us? Headache. What's the brain telling us? Neck ache. I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Sciatica. That person's a pain in the bum. They're annoying me. You know, all these sayings come from the feelings that we actually get, you know. So pain management is probably one of the most probably the you know, that's exactly what I really work with. And I can see people come in with backache, but when you uncover the onion layers, there's so much more going on, so much more.
Yeah, Rachel, who are, I'm going to say, either your target market, or who are the people that you're trying to help? Is it busy moms? Is it people that are starting a business? Is it, or anyone else in between? Fill me in.
That's a really good question, you know, because I've worked with Katie Taylor for 10 years. I also work with the Move for Parkinson's Association. I've worked in hospitals. I've worked with elite athletes, sports teams, Premier League football teams. It's anybody who has an ache or a pain. So I've found this very difficult from a business perspective to figure out who my target market is. Anytime I had marketing help, it's like, who's your target market? And I was like, well, I've never met a human being that doesn't have an ache or a pain. So it's everybody really. Um, so the type of clients that come to the studio, they all come because they have an ache or a pain. Say they start with backache and they're like, oh, you know, I was out for a hike and my back is really sore. But in fact, when we look at the whole lifestyle, the hike and the stamina is just one aspect of it. So mindful movement like Pilates, yoga, you know, really help to calm the work on the parasympathetic nervous system, the calming. So our cortisol is up here because traffic, daily life. Our oxytocin and our serotonin is down here. And it's a balancing act between those chemicals all day long.
Yeah.
So anyone who's high in cortisol is my target market.
Which is, by God, everyone from Tom, Dick, Harry, Sarah, Michelle, all back down to Mary. Everyone has, inclusive of myself. And we actually first met was in Kilruddery. And
Yes.
yeah, we both would be a major, I'm going to say, fans of the likes of Kilbredy Estate in County Wicklow. And I really enjoyed it. And I even came up to you after and we were having chats. And I was like, the next time I'm up here, I must hook up with you. And I still haven't met you again. But the idea is, right, we're going to in the very near future.
Definitely. Kilruddery is just fab. I mean, run by Fanula and Anthony. They're just super at what they do. So, and it's just around the corner from my practice there in Bray. So, really, really cool people, without a doubt.
Yeah. And you actually carried out a wellness seasoned activities. Maybe further expand on that and what that was and might be happening again in the near future, maybe.
Yeah, Kilruddery are amazing. And you know what this is? It's manifestation. Manifestation is just energy after all, isn't it? Like, well, my degree is science, so quantum physics, when you put a thought out to the universe, it's actually atoms and molecules. So it all does come back. So I remember chatting with Fanula, oh, it must have been would it be 2018 probably 2019 time, going, oh, we must think about doing some retreats and stuff like that. And when I went through my own transformation and my own inwardness, having gone through some personal things, I got out of group teaching because I was doing a lot of one-to-ones, and then I was putting it out going, God, I really want to get back out to group teaching. It's, you know, that energy. I'm a real people person. I love being around that. So it just happened then Fanula came back and she was like, hey, what do you think about now? I'm running this wellness series. And Kilruddery were on it as well, because it's like it wasn't time back then when we were talking about it really in 2018. It's time now. So yeah, they ran a wellness series and I was doing, I suppose it's like a transformation class, some Pilates yoga, but also giving people takeaways of how they can help their back, how they can always be able to put their socks on, some nerve flossing if they have sciatica. So it really does target physical pain, but we've got to peel off those onion layers first to see why it's there. Like we did the 5 why theory. I don't know if you've come across that since. The 5 whys theory, you literally ask yourself, well, so say if we do it now. So Coleman,
This is really good. Yes.
why are you here on this podcast today?
I'm here on this podcast is supposed to share a positive message that you currently have with the viewers and the listeners to the Coleman Power Organic Fitness podcast.
And why would you like to do that?
I suppose it's a way of connecting with people and giving them a free piece of content, as well as selfishly, I get to have a great chat with you that otherwise wouldn't have happened if it was much more difficult to do otherwise, maybe.
So I'm hearing that you love your work and you love doing things for other people and you love connecting with human beings. Why is that important to you?
Because that's a sense of fulfillment, and I would split my life into health, wealth, love, and fulfillment.
Ooh, health, wealth, love, and fulfillment. 4 pillars there. Absolutely love that. And why are they important to you?
I suppose because there are different aspects of health, because some can be higher than others. And I'll put my health at a high level out of 10 would be quite high, and it just helps me to be more rounded, and that's why they're split up into those 4 pillars, and they've been passed on to me from previous coaches that I've had. And that's one thing I actually would recommend to people, to actually get a coach, and just for accountability factors. And if people can't afford coaches, use a family member, use a friend, whether it's, I'm going to say, anything like that, because that really does help. Most people like would say the words, I already know that.
Yes. You'll be glad to hear this is the last why, because it's the 5 why theory. So why is accountability important to you regarding your health?
Because without accountability, all right, on the days that it's tough or difficult, either I or someone else will actually say, do you know what? I'm okay. And they roll over in the bed.
Yes. Now, you have absolutely nailed all of that there for the listeners, because that's exactly why people hire coaches as well. It's to the accountability. But what I'm really hearing from you is the fulfillment in your job, and it's lovely. So bringing it back to the 5 whys, it's like, yeah, I want to exercise for health. But in fact, those onion layers were just peeled off with, I want to connect with people. I want to have the chats. I want to give something away for free. I want to work on my business, the 4 pillars. So it's a really quick way to nail down, well, why am I doing something? So those motivational or lack of motivational days when we want to roll over in the bed, we bring up those 5 whys and go, okay, quick scan 5 whys, and I'm out of here into my exercise routine or into my walk or ringing that person that we forgot about.
Yeah. Which I suppose even we'll try and help the listeners and the viewers as much as we possibly can. What would you say to someone that would have been in a similar scenario or is in a similar scenario, whether they're having a difficult time in a relationship or they're in current work that they don't enjoy? What would you say to them?
There's always another way. There's always a plan B. And if plan B doesn't work, there's plan C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, and you go back around again. Mm-hmm. You don't stop trying, because it does work out. And if you chase your happiness, you're chasing the right thing. Not about chasing wealth. It's not about chasing all these other things. The 4 pillars are important and what kind of happiness means. We all need wealth, but at the same time, the happiness and the simple things. I've really stripped back my life to, wanting that amazing, really expensive kitchen, to actually, I'm just sitting here in my lovely little home that I bought, my small little home that I bought with my boys and the dog, and life is so simple now. So strip back life to be simple and happy. Forget about the shiny stuff, because some of the shiny stuff is good, but the journey to get there is really mucky.
Yeah. And sometimes we literally mucky. I love that analogy in relation to organic growing. The idea is a lot of people buy things just to impress the Joneses, whether it's the fancy car, the white picket fence, the whatever it may be. I've actually only recently knew there's fancy fridges and kettles. I didn't know that previously, but they're buying those things to just take the photograph and put it on social media, or to tell the neighbor, I just got that.
Most of the time it's just filling a void. It's a bit like binge eating or whatever. It's just the flashy stuff. It's just filling a void. You know, they're missing something in their life. So they have to put something flashy out there to fill that void, you know. So keep it simple, keep it stripped back, stay humble, be grateful. It just, you know, when people come into me, they're like, oh, is that it? Like that was, I kind of knew all that already. And I'm like, mm-hmm. You know, and they're like, wow. And when people come in, they've been in the healthcare system for 5 to 10 years with serious pain, with, you know, operations. And I'm talking about like back operations. People do need these things as well. But when people come in, they realize, actually, I should have taken a little bit more ownership of my own health. I should have questioned what was happening to me. And I really should have managed my stress levels so I didn't have the tense muscles in the body actually really causing the pain as well, you know. I've had backache on and off since my teenage years, and I still get backache now and again. And this is why I keep my well-being on track, because my back will tell me, or the left side of my neck gets tight, I know that I need to try harder with my health, or I need to just let go of something that's not serving me, you know, like maybe the flashy things that we used to want to go after. They're not serving me. They're causing me more stress, because then you have to get a loan out and then you've got to do all these other things. So the simple life, the simple life. And one more analogy about the mucky journey. So it's like when you get to your organic tomato, you know, that has gone through a very mucky journey. And we're just seeds. We're all just seeds after all. And we do come out shiny and happy. But that journey is mucky.
I love it. It starts in February for those people that know the sowing of the tomato. It starts from February. You can't do January, and it's been watered, weeded, transplanted. It's in the ground as of we speak now, May. From that, we won't get a tomato until we have to side shoot it. We have to train it up the string line or the bamboo stick, and we won't be
I
having
did
the
see your
tomato.
lovely video on that, the side shoot, and I loved that one. That was fabulous. It was therapeutic to watch,
And,
actually.
and I'd love to say that I spend loads of time thinking of what videos will really fly. It literally is something that goes into my head within seconds, and I'm going, I have about 5 minutes to make this video to do before I go to the next job. And I just
Yeah.
made it, and someone's like, that is so helpful, so clear. I'm like, I planned it. I planned everything. I don't, but I just try and think of, but that's probably another thing for either business owners or anyone who is thinking of being successful in anything, is actually giving people something that is the answer to the question that they're going to ask you. How do I train a tomato? Came into my head, right? How do I de-stress? How do I get rid of the back pain? How do I, anything else in between?
Yeah. The answer is cortisol causes, there I am, the teacher, causes inflammation and pain. Serotonin and oxytocin are the happy hormones. It's a balancing act. You've got to reduce the cortisol. You've got to put things in place to manage cortisol. Some cortisol is healthy because it stems from our fight and flight back in the day when we were being chased by predators. We need cortisol, but long-term cortisol really plays havoc with the system. It causes burnout. It causes all sorts of things. So managing cortisol in our body by taking the moment, usual stuff, breath work, exercise, awareness, self-awareness, checking in, grounding. I saw your lovely post on grounding. You were on the beach, were you, with your sand in your toes? You know, so you've got your well-being in check. Yeah, it's the simple things. You know, it's really the simple things. Taking a moment to look at the weather today, and just going, actually, I'm grateful for everything I have, and I'm blessed, but I need to work at this. Because sitting around breathing and meditating takes a lot of work, a lot of work. It really does. Awareness. It's
But
dedication to self,
that,
dedication to self.
yeah, but if people did the simple things, if they did the grounding techniques, if they actually took time to focus in on their health, because what happens now, as you know, it's we're distracted. We're distracted by the shiny things, the new
Yeah.
phone, the social media, the whatever it is. And we
Yeah.
can't help if people are still watching the news. Christ, turn off the television. It isn't helping at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, that's the killer. I want to even ask you a specific question, right? How and where would you say a lot of your positivity, a lot of your energy has come from someone who's worked extremely hard, done a lot of traveling, and is in the position that you're in right now? Like, what are the stepping stones? So if someone was starting off, how would they, are in the gutter, they're down low now, how do they get a little bit further up the rank? And you can't get from step one on the ladder to step 10, but how do you go from step one to two, or to two to three?
That's such a great question. And I've been there. I've been really low, really, my personal life just wasn't great. I made changes. And the stepping stones, the first one is rethink. Rethink. Rethink the simple stuff, what lights me up? What are the simple things that light me up? Is it walking the dog? There's my dog walking around. You might be able to hear him there. Is it like having a cup of tea with somebody? Is it sharing, like we said, a problem shared is a problem halved. It's the simple things. That's rethinking. You've got to rethink the simple stuff. Chase the things that light you up. Like I'm talking about, could be a walk with a friend, you know. Then it's restoring. So when you get more body awareness and more mind awareness, it's the movement and function. We cannot survive without movement and function. So we have to do some cat stretching, some balance work, some sit to stand movements, really basic stuff, and really immerse ourselves. And you're rewiring the brain through movement. So it's neurophysiology. Our brains are capable of a thing called plasticity. It's like it can create new nerve endings. So they've done studies on people in their 70s and 80s, really. And you can teach an old dog new tricks, basically. They got better at balance. They got stronger with their weights. Their brains rewired their body. They created new neurophysiology throughout their body. Isn't that fascinating? So we can get those new habits and new happiness, so it's the little things. Then when you've got some, when you're working through restore with movement and function, and you're feeling a little bit better, you've got the mindset now to move forwards. You've got the physical health a little bit more because you're moving and you've got better function. Then it's recharge. I've got to keep this going. I don't stop. So it's about not falling off the bandwagon. Yes, with the seasons, we'll change and our structure will change and our schedule will change, and that's perfectly fine. But every season, create a new well-being routine for ourselves. That's really key. We all think, oh, I should be doing this forever. Oh, no, I didn't make that. And not realizing actually the seasons are changing right now. So we need a different routine, just like those organic vegetables.
It's it. They come into season for a reason, and we switch it up. And that's an example that we can expand on. Like, I don't typically, just very recent in my head, I don't typically do running, but I was like, I don't feel like doing weight session today. I don't feel like running.
Yeah.
So I had to change up today, but it's still ticking my box of exercise, right? And
Yeah.
that's really important.
So important. And again, we beat ourselves up going, oh, I should have done that. And I was supposed to do this, when in fact, we've got 5 seconds to go. Otherwise, we could just sit on the sofa. We've got 5 seconds. The Mel Robbins 5 second rule. Don't know if you've come across that one. It was a YouTube sensation that, made her famous. And she didn't realize why it worked. 5 second rule. If we give ourselves 5 seconds to think about it, we'll just stay still. Whereas if we decide, okay, I'm doing it, we will move. So it's the movement is so important. It's so important for personal growth. People think it's just about, looking good, or I want to tone up, or it's not. I move for my mental health and my emotional well-being first. That's my priority. So I have patience and I don't resent others. I fill up my own cup, the oxygen mask theory. You've got to, and I've done this always throughout my life. I've always looked after my own well-being first. I wouldn't have been able to get through the hard times that I did if I, wasn't putting my well-being first. well-being first, and
Yeah.
then I've got energy to look after my dog, my kids. It's hard. Life is hard. There's no fancy way of saying, life is not hard. It is. And there's a curveball thrown at our heads every single day. So if we actually become the strongest version of ourselves, physically, emotionally, mentally, and put the work in every single day to one of those pillars, that's how we actually come out of something, whether it's grief. Loss and grief is very similar to going through. We've got to transform. And look, we all go through loss and grief at some stage in our life, don't we? So some of my clients have gone through grief, and they start with, rethinking, then moving their body and recharging, going, actually, that I feel lit up today. I followed my heart. I did something that made me feel, that was actually good. Whether it's putting your feet in the sand, whether it's, sitting down. I love having a cup of tea with somebody. I just love that. You have a cup of tea with somebody, and it's like, that was just so, so good. You're connecting, you're filling up your cup in one way. And so it's back to the simple things, Coleman. I've gone on a tangent
No, you
again,
haven't,
but
and I have it perfectly lined up for the next one. You went in the right direction for both of us, okay? So I would love you to explain your morning routine, okay? Because talking about filling up your own cup first, that's really going to help people in, I suppose, showing and experiencing what you have to do for yourself before you do things for others.
yes, this is really important. And I'm
Mm,
a bit of a night owl now, I have to say. I do a bit of pottering at nighttime when
mm.
the kids are in bed. I'm on my own here with my children, so I'm an independent solo parent. Um, so the mornings are tough. I've two boys, 11 and 13, and they can be moody. They don't get out of bed, and some mornings just do not go as planned. Before I open my bedroom door, this is where we have to micromanage the stress. We have to micromanage. I do a meditation sitting in my bed every single morning. These mornings are beautiful. I pull the curtains back, the light comes in, and I take the simpleness of the sun coming in, the breathing. I prop myself up in bed. I'm not sitting on the floor doing a meditation. Are you crazy? I'm sitting in bed doing a 3 minute meditation, or a 6 minute, or a 10-minute meditation if I have the time. That is it. And you know what meditation is? It gives a busy mind something else to think about. That's all it is. That's all it is. So I tap into my breathing. And yes, my head goes a little bit into the day ahead. I bring myself back to my breathing, and I just come out of the bedroom, and I can manage the dog, I can manage the kids. So that is one of the things I do when it's busy. Okay. If it's the weekend, or if the boys are in their dads or something like that, and I have a free morning, I will go for a run. I will get to the gym. I do two reformer Pilates classes every week. I play basketball on a Tuesday night. I mountain bike at the weekend. I exercise either an hour or 2 hours every day. Every day.
Yeah,
Every
that's
day.
your non-negotiable.
They're non-negotiable. I could not do my life without movement. Now, I'm at a stage now where I have a bit more time. My children are 11 and 13. My business, thankfully, runs now without me. I've managed that. That's fantastic. And I'm, into the next phase of my life. I'm 46 this year. So, going through perimenopause as well. So I really, really need to look after my health and well-being. Now, believe me, there's crazy days in this house with the dog and the kids. Absolutely. There's no denying that. And I feel like sometimes I'm losing it. And that's when I go back to, hold on a minute, get back to the simple things, do your box breathing. I have to say to my kids, hold on a minute, I'm doing my breath work. I'm doing my breath work. So if I'm in the moment of actually a really stressful situation with the boys in the house, I just take it back to my breath work, because it's an in the moment tool that I can actually use.
Right. And I'm going to say maybe we can tailor it even slightly to like business owners in itself that would love to be in the position that you're in right now. How did you get from where you previously were to where you are now? Or what would you recommend people that are starting off or in and on the journey of looking to own or be a part of a business that runs itself or that makes more money than it currently does right now and just be more successful?
That is a great question again. And I think really emotional intelligence is very, very important when you run a business. And I've been on a couple of courses, and that sometimes comes up as the top thing. You can be the most skilled person in the world. You can have all the qualifications. You can have PhDs coming out your ears. Who bloody cares? If you don't have emotional intelligence, really, it's something we can learn. That's important. So being a people person, particularly nowadays, people are getting a little bit fed up with the tech and the AI, and it's a bit scary out there. If you have, if you can get into a business where people want the simple life and connecting, that's where the future lies. It's the connections with people. So that's really, really important. Thankfully, I've always had that, ability to connect with people. I didn't realize that was one of the reasons why my business was successful, because I just did it because I loved it. And, I I studied rehabilitation therapy, and I was working with football clubs and grannies who'd broken their hips, in the hospitals. That's where I was. And now the business runs itself, but it was really through being a people connector. That's, I would say, the most important thing in running a business.
Yeah, being relatable to the likes of the people that come in and actually helping them, right? That's one of the keystones that I would think as a business owner myself is actually helping people and really caring, because to those people that are trying to take people's money just to make money, right? That definitely wouldn't be any two of us, and that drives me mental.
I never was in a business for money, and I'm still not. Like, if I won the lotto tomorrow, I'd still do what I do. I absolutely love it. I'd be kind of depressed without my work. It's actually a hobby. Um, so yeah, and like we said before, is as a business owner, it's very, very important to, not to get burnt out in your business. I've been there. I've been there. I was misdiagnosed with epilepsy, and I was having seizures and things like that when I was 23. I was, starting the business, starting to, at the same time, I was also, out drinking alcohol, late nights, not looking after myself, running for marathons, all this sort of stuff. And I was having seizures. And again, my physical vessel told me your lifestyle is not right. So I went to the neurologist, and he was like, there you go, there's tablets for the rest of your life. You've got epilepsy. And I just didn't want to believe that. So I went down a different route of looking after myself, less alcohol. I still like an old glass of wine now and again, you know, but it wasn't like 23-year-old back in the day when you were out drinking and then you were up for something in the morning time, like a run or something, like what, like, are we trying to kill ourselves? So thankfully today's society has changed since all of that, they don't do those crazy things. But my body, I was having epileptic tonic colonic seizures because I was not looking after myself. So that was one of the other reasons why I delved into a little bit more. I was told I could never be on my own with my kids, never be on my own ever. And I'm a solo business owner, and a solo parent. So I'm on my own a lot, and I love my own company. So I can't afford to be having seizures.
Rachel, I really appreciate you being honest and sharing the likes of, I'm going to say, your failures, which everybody has, but sharing them openly with everyone else to say that you, like everybody else, including myself and that, we don't start off, nothing goes well at the start. There's loads of different failures, and failures are feedback, as it's always been mentioned, and that helps other people, whether it's, I'm going to say, clients that you work with and or business owners that are struggling themselves at the minute or only starting off. And is there any message that you would like to, suppose, share with them in itself, whether it's a business owner, I suppose, that's struggling, that would like that is struggling and would love to be a little bit further down the road?
Yeah, I think reaching out to your support systems is so important. And that's where coaches come in. So maybe something we can't share with our family. Like the stuff that my clients have told me, some of them have never even disclosed stuff to their families. So having a coach, it's can be a little bit like counseling, but you're moving the person forward. You're moving them forward. Counseling is like delving in and healing the past. Coaching is like moving forwards. And I still do. I have a therapist that I attend once a year for my mental health. I mean, like I do a bout of it for like 4 to 8 weeks or something once a year, every year, for my mental health. And that's like just keeps me in check there as well. So that's one of my support systems. Another support system is my family, my work colleagues and things like that as well, who I rely on. So support systems, we're not supposed to do life alone. So that's another pillar of strength.
Love that you mentioned that. We're not meant to do life alone in itself. And Rachel, I'm going to say, conscious of your time, where would you recommend people, if they would like to reach out to you, either on social media and or your website? Make sure you mention it here, please.
Thank you so much. I did start my business with pen and paper back in the day when there was no such thing as Instagram and all that. So I am a pen and paper person still. But look, you've got to move with the times. Here we are on Zoom. Like, it's amazing. So my website is repowerme.ie. But if anyone wanted to reach out to me personally with questions about health or well-being, or if they're going through a life change and a transition and need some transformational coaching, my email is re for Rachel Elizabeth, or E, at repowerme.ie.
What I'll do, Rachel, is I'll tag all that in the show notes. We can just really click down below and go straight over to the likes of your social medias and your website. All right.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Coleman. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy, and to spread the word of looking after ourselves.
Thanks so much for coming on. And I always end these shows by saying, stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic.